Hello,
Hey.
beauties. It is
Hi.
so good. I'm so excited to get together and talk with you guys today. For those that are just joining us, if this is the first time you joined us, we are the Real Joy Project, Nikki, Shelby, and myself, JennyLee. And we started this group as a way to connect women through all of the generations with no judgment and just to have people there to have that connection to help us through all of the different seasons of our life, which is what we're going to talk about today, and have different conversations. If you go back to our YouTube channel, we've had conversations on all kinds of things from hormones to raising children to going through just going through different things. And so stay tuned. Make sure to subscribe to our channel because we have a lot we want to talk about. And we just want you to feel comfortable and not alone in this world as we are navigating as women going through different times. So, hello, ladies. How are you guys today? What is going on in your world?
Go for it,
I,
Shelby.
I am officially packing to go on a bachelorette trip. This is the second time that I will be away from my daughter for multiple days in a row. So I'm kind of excited to like get out of the house and travel by myself. Obviously, I'm going to miss my daughter and my husband very much while I'm gone, but I'm excited for some girl time this weekend. And yeah, it should be a very fun and probably kind of long weekend, but we are off to Seattle and we got a lot of really cool
Ooh.
stuff planned. So big changes there as far as the weather goes. For those of you that don't know me, I live in Houston, Texas. So the temperature is still reaching like 85 to 90 degrees. And the weather forecasted for Seattle this week is rainy and like mid 50s to 60s. So I am over here packing that and digging out all my fun fall weather stuff, which I'm excited to finally get to wear, and just looking forward to celebrating a friend this weekend.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
How about you, Nikki? What are you up to?
Well, I just came off of like a 3 month stint of weddings. I think it was a total of eight. And so I feel like we've closed the book and lots of fun, all kinds of good things. Positive, positive stuff, but also some of that sorrow with you'll learn more about me with that journey too. But also just excited for this, like there's this in between time that I'm at right now. I We just got done with the Girlfriend Getaway, and we're working on the next one, but there's this in between space that feels I love the word contentment right now, and that just makes me cozy up to fall. I want to get my pumpkin spice coffee and maybe decorate a little bit or not, and kind of just get ready and just enjoy this space of not having a lot of things to do. Sometimes I think we kind of get a little hectic in that time, but I'm really enjoying it. So that's where I'm at. Just enjoying the ride.
That's awesome. I feel like I'm kind of in between you guys. I'm like not going to bachelorette parties. That was in the past.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not going to, like, we are not in a season of weddings right now, but I would say give it like 5 years, and that's going to be
Mhm.
when all of our 5 to 10 years span, then
Yeah.
our kids will be in that season too. So I'm kind of in between the two of you guys. Um and I'm like also in between like the busy and the in between, like
Mhm.
transitioning through from one business to another, and transitioning from daytime to there's a lot more darkness, and all that good stuff. One of the things that I did last week though was painted some outside, and it was the last of that 70-degree weather, and it was the last day I was touching up the trim on the shed and the door, and you could feel literally throughout the day, feel the weather changing and the leaves were falling heavier, and that was the last 70-degree day. It was like it's now or never, let's get this done. But I enjoyed it so much. I enjoyed being out in the weather and the calm and being by myself. I had an Audible book that I listened to once in a while. Sometimes I didn't listen to anything. But I love painting because I love seeing the transition happen before my eyes, and something is now new and fresh. And
Right.
so that's what I was doing last week. So we got a lot going on, all of us. Um and that's going to lead us into our topic today is going to be the seasons, the transition of seasons, whether that is the weather and the actual seasons, or seasons of our lives that we are going through and different things like that. And even that like pause, that in between that Nikki's talking about, when you're in between busy seasons and you actually have time to just be content and pause. So, Nikki, I think you should start off. Where do you want to take it from here? Like,
Well,
which season should we start with?
well, I actually think that what I touched about on just a few minutes ago, I think that sometimes as women, as I've self-proclaimed myself a high functioning codependent, which is, if people don't know what that is, where we are trying to do all the things, be perfect, and make sure we're hitting all the things, and also looking around to make sure if anybody needs help, what do they need, those kinds of things. But I think for me, I got caught up for so much of my life of all the have tos. And so they're really, I don't ever remember, I really don't remember the in between before, until now that I made some changes in my life. And so what I mean by that is like just even decorating. We were just talking about that a little bit ago of, I used to decorate for every holiday. I used to have the bunnies out for Easter, and then I've had pumpkins out for Halloween, and then have something for the fall. And I mean, it just felt like it was never ending. And it was like you barely get one up and then the next one's down. And I think that if that's your thing, you go for it, right? But there's people that are like, I'm all here for the fall, y'all. But then there's the people that are here for Halloween and they want to decorate for that. And the other people are like, screw Halloween, screw fall. I'm already got my Christmas stuff up, And then there's other people that are like, F you, I really don't want to decorate at all. I just want to keep the white walls and don't want to have to do that, which do whatever works for you. But I think that's why what we're talking about, that's a common thread through the Real Joy Project, is not getting caught up in all the shoulds, right? The sea of shoulds. I should do this or I should do that. My mother did this or my mother-in-law did that, or I think some my kids are expecting this. I think that
Right.
we get caught up in that, right?
Yeah, if I have the company stop over and I don't have decorations up, oh my gosh, what are they going to think? Are they
Yeah.
really going to think
Right.
anything? Like,
Right. Right. And I think we get, so for me, it was almost like kind of going to rehab to like give myself that, give myself permission to not have to decorate. I have 11 pumpkins for fall. I have 11 pumpkins, and those 11 pumpkins they get put out, and that's it. But I used to do all the other things. And now I'm like, actually, I was with JennyLee not so long ago, and I chose to buy a few more pumpkins. I'm like, oh, SHIT. Should I really have bought those? Because now I have to know how many I put out, right? But here's what I will say is that for me, I know JennyLee's probably going to share about herself. I know for her that the light getting less over time is definitely something that affects her, and I'll let her share about that too. But for me, I love living in North Dakota. I love every season. I love that in summertime it starts to get, at the end of summer. I mean, I don't know that anybody hates summer, but there probably are people out there. I don't know. And so I just love when you're finally kind of you're getting to that point where you're uncomfortable or you want to change something, and then the next season comes. So I love when the change of color comes. I love that the last couple days, actually, it just started raining here. And so then it's going to be like, I want a blanket. I want to turn on a movie. I love that. It's almost like I'm trying to take the cues, because I used to not do that. I used to not slow down and get the cues. But also, I think that's where you can talk about that, JennyLee, and even Shell being down now, where it's not necessarily having that fall weather yet. Maybe you want to talk about, JennyLee, how that has affected you, because I'm looking forward to it, but I know that that's not necessarily where you're at. So I'm like the pumpkin spice. I had it in September, right? And I'm all about the colors, and I love the smell, and I love all of those things. I don't necessarily love that the sunlight is going away as much, but I'm okay with it. But I know that that's not necessarily always the case with you.
yeah, I really struggled through this season, and my husband's the one that he caught it years ago. When I first became a stay-at-home mom, I had been working. My kids were a year and a half and 3 years old when I stopped working, so I was used to getting out of the house and going doing things and coming back. And I actually started being a stay-at-home mom in February, of all months, of one of the worst winters that we had had in a long time. You guys, that spring, we had dark days. It was dark and cloudy and cold and icky. By March, I think it was, I cut out a big sun and literally out of construction paper and hung it in the window. it hung there for a month because I'm like, I need a fake sun. And my husband's the one that really like, he noticed I was struggling through different seasons. Not only like spring is like, you're shifting in two things for me. The days are longer, my energy is higher, and now my kids' schedule changed. And then come fall, your kids' schedule changes, whether they're babies and their sleep patterns are changing, or whether they're in school and their whole schedule's changing. But then in the fall, I really struggle with it's dark. It's really hard to get up in the morning. In the summertime, I will wake up before my alarm at 5:15 in the morning and jump out of bed and go work out. And now it's like, oh God, I'm so tired. It's so dark. It's so much harder to push yourself to do that. But I struggle with energy, and I just get sad and like unfocused. It's hard to focus because we have had cloudy days for 2, 3 days now, I think, up here.
Mhm.
It's
Yes.
cool. It's not like cold, cold. It's actually quite beautiful outside. But when you look
Yes.
outside, it's so dreary. And I have things to get done, but I don't want to do them.
Mhm.
And it's hard. The sun makes a huge difference for me. So we do have what we call happy lights in our house. And if you go to Amazon and search happy lights, there's all kinds of them that like are supposed to like kind of help you to sit underneath. I've got one above me here in my office, and there's one in my bedroom, and I just ordered two more because I want one on both sides of me in my office. I decided this winter, and there's going to be one upstairs. So when I get up to work out in the morning, I was using this one to try it. I turned it on the minute I walked out in the living room and turned it on, and used it during my workout because I trying to do that in the dark is really, really hard. So that's like one of the things that has helped me. The other thing that I realize, my husband and I were talking last night, and during the summertime, I work out in our enclosed porch. Right now, I'm in my basement. I have a tiny little window up here, which doesn't give you much sun, even when it is sunny. And in this, otherwise, fall, spring, summer, I can work outside in the porch where you guys have seen me in my background, and I'm out wide windows all the way around me. So we were talking last night about finding a nook in the house, and it might not be like, oh, if when people, like my husband said, if people come over, who cares if they're like, why is there a desk in the middle of the dining room or the living room? And so he just suggested, he's like, play around a little bit and figure out where you want it to be. And then once you find someplace, then we can make it like a nice little space that is like you enjoy sitting in. I'm still going to need the office for other things, but there's a lot of things at my job that I need my computer, my phone, and a notebook. Like that's all I need. I don't need a whole thing. So I'm trying to adapt, and it's so great that he recognizes that. So he
Mhm.
helps me. And so, because sometimes when you get into that moment, you don't realize it until somebody else is like, okay, what's going on here, you know? So those are a few things. And then sometimes I have to literally write myself a schedule up for the day. Like from 7 a.m. to 8, you're going to do this. And from 8 to 9, you're going to take a shower. I sometimes put that on my schedule. Today was the first time I took a shower in a couple days. And when I got on, Nikki's like, you look so nice today. I'm like, today I needed to get myself showered, dressed, and ready just to be like, okay, that feels good because it's cloudy and icky out, and I really don't want to do that. But I literally put it
Yeah.
on the list and made it happen. So those are some of
But
the things
that's
that are
being
helping me transition.
I was just gonna say, but that's being real, right? I mean, I'm like, how many times do we not talk about that? About that, when you have a job or you work from home or something like that, you have the flexibility. I mean, we're not like scrubby, if we don't take a shower for 2 days, we'll survive. But sometimes just even admitting that because there's somebody else out there that's like, oh, thank God, they're real people, right? That's real.
Yes.
That's real.
Yes.
Somebody else is out there saying, I only took a shower 4 times or 3 times this week. It's that whatever what works for you, but also realizing that that was something that now you kind of got in that funk and you realize you needed that to because sometimes we're not in tune with our body. And I know
Yeah.
Shelb's talk about that probably more than all of us together because she's more focused on that. That's her area of expertise, right? But also so many times we are so consumed by all the things, like I said, the expectations of everybody else, or even the expectations that we have for ourselves, whether they're perceived or real, that we think we have to do all those things. And like that's okay. So today I'm not going to take a shower. I'm going to do something else. I'm going to go outside and I'm going to get a walk because
Yes.
there's a sliver of sun outside today or whatever that is. So, I mean, and that kind of leads into what I know Shelb's going to say, for these times. I mean, she lives in Texas and I know
Right.
she said that even one of our last times that we were on, it was saying that she had so much more so much more daylight. And I think both JennyLee and I were like lapping our tongues
I
like,
know, like yes, please. And before Shelby, I know she's got to speak up, but I wanted to also clarify for those that don't know me is I'm in a space right now where I work from home and my kids both drive. So like I don't have to leave the house. I don't have to drive them to school. Where even before if I drove them to school in my pajamas, I was still outside. And so there's yeah, my husband will come home. Have you gone outside today? I'm like, no. And so that is a goal of mine, as Shelby knows, because Shelby is my wellness coach, personally, is to get outside. No matter how cold it is, if it's 5 minutes, bundle up and get outside and get that burst of color and fresh air. And so that's a goal of mine this winter too. So Shelby,
yeah,
tell us
she's got
about
lots to
Texas.
share.
Tell us
Yeah.
about the transition that you noticed from
Yeah.
being in North Dakota to going to Texas, because you've had how many winters in Texas now? One or two?
It'll be our third
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
or second full winter.
Okay.
Okay.
We moved here January 3 years ago. So we're coming up on 3 years. Um, so I grew up in Northeast Montana and went to college in North Dakota. So all of the Northwestern people that are laughing at me when I'm like, it is cold in Texas and it's like 55 degrees. I know all about the like 40 below with wind chill and all that. And yeah, my skin has maybe gotten a little thin moving down here. But um there are some really big changes that I noticed. And I kind of want to backtrack too on some of the things that Jenny said too. So I'll kind of bounce around here. But um we have way less sunlight, just like you guys do in this part of the year. This morning it was 7:30 in the morning before the sun was like really starting to come up and it was daylight. I was sending Jenny a video message this morning and it was very dark in our living room and I'm just like sitting there trying to be all quiet and stuff. But the days are getting shorter. But one thing that I've really noticed this time of year is that I can still get outside without it being so frigid cold. And I know you're not quite there yet in some areas, but there's times where there's no way I would have been able to take my 16-month-old daughter out for a walk in the stroller for even 20 to 30 minutes
Mhm.
in North Dakota because there's just no way. That's way too cold. It's one thing for me to be like super bundled up and sweaty and hot and like my face getting cold, like we've all been outside where you're walking and your eyelashes are like frozen. But it's another thing. I'm obviously not able to do that with my daughter in that area of the US. But so I know I've talked with both of you about, yes, the days are shorter as far as daylight goes, but this morning, I mean, it was 67 degrees out. So it was super nice out. I got to walk for a full hour. I was actually contemplating going a little bit longer, but just with my schedule for today, we did have to get back to the house. But I'm now getting to be outside for like probably close to like 10, 11 months out of the year. Whereas up north, you had like 4 months out of the year that were kind of questionable that you could for sure be outside enjoying the weather. So that is one big change. Um, right now, a big transition for me as a first time mom is kind of navigating what my health kind of routine looks like. So I do encourage women to get out and, get that sunlight, find some type of movement. Obviously, it's best if you could do it outside, but just finding some time for yourself to get movement in. Jenny kind of talked about this, how it's harder in the mornings to get up and it's pitch black out, you're not super motivated to do it. So one thing I do work with a lot of my clients on is picking a time that works for you, because it actually works for you as an individual, not because your friend is doing it. And so that was something that I was really struggling with for a while. Before becoming a mom, I used to get up every morning and get my workouts in bright and early. And now this time of year is an additional stressor on that, where it's like not as much motivation. But there still are some fairly sleepless nights with our daughter and stuff too. So one transition that I am in is kind of refinding my routine where I can still do things for myself that actually fit. So I actually moved my really early morning workouts to now over like the lunch hour from like noon to like 2 or 3 o'clock, because that's during my daughter's nap time. So that was just one thing lately. Yes, I'm still able to get outside and do our daily walks and things like that, but I'm just in this transition of kind of finding what my overall schedule looks like, not only as a mom navigating Lakin's schedule, but like what are some things that I can still do and have for myself without losing me in the chaos too, and kind of this season of motherhood for me.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And I think what you touch about, for us being up north, I mean, we all are, when we're from this area or somewhat like it, we know that we are just not getting enough vitamin D. So, most of us, and I know that's your other area of expertise, Shell, but making sure that we are getting those vitamin D supplements and helping ourselves out. Because even if we were, outside 24/7, we're still not, because the strength of the sun and things like that, we're not going to be able to give that to ourselves. So, and I think that depending, we I always said I would work out and take care of myself when my kids were out of the house. And I look back at that and I was like, what the heck was I thinking? Because I now I'm having to do reconnaissance, on a lot of things and be like, ooh, that was not a good habit to have. But I think realizing that there are people out there, and that's why we want to have this conversation, is that there are people we may not necessarily always know who to reach out to for things like that. Like, who do we talk to about, and what kind of supplements, and not just that, but also like what kind of activities. Like I know that that's something else that you do, but also realizing that just starting, right? Just starting somewhere. For me, I remember it was that I saw some group that was doing, this was probably 5 or 6 years ago. They were doing something where they would walk a mile and they would be in this group. Excuse me. But I was like, I don't want to be in the group. I don't know. I don't know who's in there. I don't know if I'll have a friend. I know that it's all about accountability and that's fantastic. But I was like, so I just said to myself, I'm like, you're going to start walking a mile a day. And so, excuse me, that's what I started. And I do it every day. And for me, I think it's awesome that you do it in the middle of the day if that works for you. For me, I just know that if I don't do it in the beginning of the day, I will never get back to me. But I'm in a very different season of my life than you are, right?
Mhm.
And so I think that sometimes we get stuck, right? Well, this is how Shelby does it, or this is how JennyLee does it, or this is how Nikki does it, so I have to do it that way. And I think that's where we get stuck in a lot of like I said, those expectations. And so whether it's the season of life or it's the season of the calendar, I think these feelings are coming up right now in this season, at least for us, that in between. But some people in the in between, it makes them feel uncomfortable. They don't like it, and I will, like I said earlier, that's not necessarily something that I was okay with before, of feeling that sense of uncomfortableness, or I often felt that looming sense of duty that I was supposed to be doing something else. And so I have had to retrain my brain that rest is okay. And actually, not only is it okay, but it's absolutely necessary. And so that's where I see this, that's the season of life that I'm in, right? Like, I'm gearing up for, we're gearing up for the holiday season. And for me, that's one of my all-time favorite times. It used to be to decorate and things like that. I mean, I remember my daughter one time came home from college, and I don't know if you can remember the movie The Grinch, and they were standing outside of the house and they have like the light gun and he's like and Gracie comes in and she's like, "Oh my gosh, mom, like I think you went a little overboard." And I was like, how dare you, but I used to put it in every nook and cranny. And then I finally gave myself, the permission to say I'm not going to do that. So I don't want anyone to feel like when we asked about, do you decorate for this or do it's, if that's not your thing, then don't do it. But so many things like that, or you think that in order to exercise, you have to run a marathon. This person ain't ever gonna run a marathon. If you see me running that hard, it means you should be too, because something's behind me. But I mean, I think that's where sometimes if you are not comfortable with that in between space, we can tend to fill it with things that are actually detrimental for our lives or are meaningless, or we're people pleasing, we're doing it to please other people. And then we get ticked, and then we're resentful. And then we're mad that, everybody wanted these things from us. But in the end, I'm not here to shame or blame us, but I'm like, nobody is, we really don't have anybody else to blame but ourselves, So, because if we always say, we're gonna bring the pumpkin pie at Thanksgiving, well, people tend to, expect that, right? Well, unless we say, you know what, hey, I'm not eating sugar this year or whatever, so I'm not gonna be able to bring the pie. Can I choose to, or we're gonna be out of town the weekend before, so I can't do that. Um, but we often get so afraid to say, that we have to make some kind of change. And I think that's where, I guess, when I look at this in between, I think of it as the ramp up to the holidays, because there's just, and I know we're going to talk about that on our next one. But just instead of like already thinking ahead for the next 2 months, which is fine to prep and prepare, but also just to not fill that space to fill the space, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying, like this in between time, whether it's for 30 minutes for you or a whole month, just really allow yourself to have that time, you know? Because I think that's what I'm hearing from you, Shelby, even when you moved your workout to the afternoon, it's like, or even JennyLee, like I actually got a Marco from her and she's like actually on the floor and she has her eyes closed the other morning and she's like, I do not want to get up. And she's talking to me and I'm just like, but you are up, right? And I didn't even call or send it back to her to tell her that, but I'm like, but you are. But you're also listening to your body and listening to your mind and what you really need. And you know what? There's been days that I'm like, you know what? Today I'm not walking, and it's okay. I think that's the other thing is that we think, or at least for me, the perfectionist, it's like it's all or nothing, right? Like I have to do this, and then oh, SHIT that I missed a day. And it's like, well, that's reality. Also, that, I'm not going to push myself because that whole darn time, then I'm going to be in a different mindset. Instead of allowing myself to have that rest, sit on the couch, or maybe just meditate instead of walking and meditating. But I think we get caught up into that comparison. And we know that comparison is the thief of joy. I mean, that's why we want to have the Real Joy Project, is having those real conversations about, just because that works for somebody else to run a marathon, that doesn't mean that has to work for you. What is it? You know? Is it saying that you're going to put a coffee time with a friend like I had a friend that we did it every 2 weeks, twice a month. And that fed my soul more than I think anything I could have ever done in that time, in that 2-year period of my life.
Thank
Because yeah, go ahead.
I think you nailed it, Nikki, with me moving my workouts from the morning. I was really missing out and craving some just alone time
Yeah.
for myself. And I wasn't finding that in my schedule, no matter how much I forced it, because I had set expectations for myself that, my background in personal training and, what I'm doing with the Habit Mama, that I had to be that mom that woke up at 5 a.m. and, drank my pre-workout drinks and went straight into the gym and worked out and put it on my social media for it to be validated. And um just I put unrealistic expectations on myself, and that wasn't working for me, because at the end of the day I was losing out on any time, alone time for myself, because as the day went on, I was waking up early, going straight into our gym to work out, then trying to shower quickly, getting our daughter up, going into routine, getting her
Mhm.
down for nap time, and then it was straight into like work stuff. Work
Yeah.
stuff, or, so I wasn't having any alone time for myself. So having to sit with myself and be like, okay, this is not working, but there has to be a way for this to work, because I needed some alone time for myself. So uh, my routine for the last couple of months now has literally been, I get up, I make this hormone drink that I've been drinking. I've been working with a hormone specialist. So I drink that right away in the morning, and then I make my coffee and I just sit. So when
Mhm.
I was Marcoing Jenny this morning, she was like, "Oh my gosh, I love that. You're just like sitting in the dark, having a moment to yourself." When I get up, it's, phone down. Yes, I was answering Jenny back, but I am trying not to just scroll social media and doing that. I turn our lamp on out in the living room. That it's not the lamp that Jenny referenced in the beginning, but it's like a yellow, kind of glowing. It's very like peaceful and calming. I turn that on and I'm just like sitting with my coffee, and I have zero expectations of doing anything in
Yeah.
that time. If
Yeah.
I do, great, but not having those expectations, other than I just need this moment for myself. I don't set a timeline on it either. Like if I get all the way through my coffee, great. If not, then I don't. But um I think a lot of us have that all or nothing mentality,
Yes.
or we're so taken over by what is everybody else doing, and I have to do the same thing or else I'm not going to find success in anything that I'm
Well,
doing.
I think what you did is what Jenny Lee and I in our previous working together is what is you were recalibrating, right? You were realigning, you were pivoting, and so many times we don't even realize that we just get stuck on that, and we do get stuck, right? We think, well, this is how it's worked for all this time, so this is what we have to do. And I'm like, but time has not stood still. This is what, and I'm like, I am the perfect, I'm speaking to myself here. I'm not just speaking to you guys and everybody else, but that's what happens. We think, well, it worked for that period of time. So it worked for, it's always worked, right? It's always worked. I'm like, yeah, but I'm no longer the person. When I started doing that, I was this person. And now I'm somebody different. And even like with you, like you just said, I had to realize I know like in the morning, like I said, I do the meditation because it's my gift to myself.
Mhm.
I tell people I don't like to work out, and I said I really have to change that. I have to change those words. And because to me it's not even really working out.
Well, and
But
even the words you just said about the meditation is my gift to myself. That
yes,
so then you want to do it because you're
yes.
telling yourself that.
Because I think as women, we often feel we are supposed to give such unabashedly, right? We're supposed to give to everybody else. And actually, I just saw a reel from someone else before we were getting on, and it said something. Think about if we were to give to our as much as we give to our children, right? Unconditionally, we are often willing to go above and beyond, do whatever they need, right, to meet their needs. And if we only just even did a fourth of that for ourselves, and actually that was like funk, like in the face, I was like, oh. And I mean, I've been on this, journey of self-love, or just really trying to see myself and give back to myself. I think I've been on it for probably 7 or more years, but wholeheartedly in the last 3 years of just like, okay, I am worth it, right? And I think
Yeah.
that that's where, we started this conversation about this in between. And I think there's so much in betweenness that that's throughout our lifetime or even in the year, right? But we think that we know that schedules do well for us. We know that routines are good and things like that. But also, there's something to be said about, I mean, there are millions of books written about it. I could say some of the names, and now, of course, they're leaving my brain. But I mean, about, you know what? That's what good businesses do, right? After
Mhm.
each quarter, they look and see where they are and like, what do we need to change? What do we need to stay the same? And it's the same with us. And so I think, you know, don't overlook that there's 4 seasons in the year. I mean, it's there. I mean, we know that our bodies definitely know it, you know, we like we just got done talking about, but I think it's also a cue to remind ourselves to check in with ourselves and see where are we at? What do I need to do? Maybe during this time, you need to walk more, or you need to go outside, or you need to walk in the afternoon. You know, I know JennyLee used to walk when I'd be walking in the morning, and I'd be walking when it was pitch black, you know, and she sometimes would walk in the afternoon because it would have more sun, or later on in the morning. So instead of saying, well, this is the way that it has to be, maybe that's the way it has to be for today because you need it to
Right.
be that way, right? But allowing yourselves to um, have that flexibility, I think that we are far more rigid with ourselves than we are with anybody else. If somebody else would have come, if either one of us would have come up to each other and said, "Oh my gosh, you know, I'm not able to get my walk in. I'm trying to figure this out." We'd be like, "Oh, well, you don't need to keep it in the morning." But for ourselves, we're like, we hold ourselves to that high standard of that nothing can change. And so I think that with this season of fall, right? We've all seen the memes that are out there that are about the leaves are changed. They're about to show us how beautiful it is to change. And
Mhm.
so, and it might just be even something small, or it's saying that, you know what, by me standing true to this schedule that I have, it might be even that I'm not changing anything, which means that I'm choosing me. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
as the holidays are coming, or what, or maybe your kid's starting to play hockey or whatever it is, and this season, this next season that you're going into is crazy busy. You're saying, no, I'm not going to give up on myself. I'm not going to give up my daily you know, workout routine, or sitting in the silence of having that coffee time or that tea time, or just pure silence, and allowing myself to free fall in all the conversations or the thoughts that I have with myself. So I think that is, I guess that kind of brings it all together today. You know what I mean? Like I think we have to remember that sometimes the change is outside and sometimes the change is inside.
Mhm.
I think just embracing that, the physical season and the time of year we're in is kind of a sign to tell us like it is okay to slow down
Yeah.
too. Having less of that sunlight and stuff is, kind of the universe's way of saying like, hey, I'm giving you less daylight, like you need to chill a little
Yeah.
bit. Like it is okay to, summer times we're all out till 10 o'clock at night and you're going 100 miles an hour, and you're doing all of these things. And then fall and winter come and it's like, hey, it's okay. I know we talk about this all the time too, is just having these conversations about it with both of you has given me permission
Mhm.
to do the same. And like you said, Nikki, you almost have to take your own advice that you would give to a friend or a loved one. But just getting that permission to slow down too is okay. And I think the season is trying to tell us that. But I think in a roundabout way, that's what we're all talking about here. Whether you're in this season or that season, it's time to, slow down, kind of reassess, see where you're at. We are coming up on the end of the year. If you do look at it as like a business standpoint thing too, lots of businesses do like their end of the year things, like Nikki mentioned, what things worked out really well and what things do we need to change and or keep the same. And I think we can do that in our personal lives too. But if I could give a piece of advice, it's keeping things simple and picking and choosing the things that are going to work for you as an individual. Because, I can say I work out at noon because my daughter's napping at noon. And if I tell that to Nikki, she's gonna be like, I gotta eat lunch like at that time. Like, no way. Like I'm
Yeah.
not going to do that because 3/4 of my day is gone already. So just encouraging everybody to really sit back and be like, what is going to work for me?
Mhm.
And then choosing things that you truly enjoy doing too, and not letting, social media or friends or, those outside influences tell you what to do. Just choose yourself at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
and you know what, and what we want to, I don't know if the words provide, but what we want to encourage here too is that connection with other women. Because like you just said, being able to tell somebody else like I'm struggling through this, or they recognize it, you don't recognize it, and you're just blah, 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 and they're like, okay, wait a minute, what's going on? That's such a blessing. And so to find that connection, which we've talked about in some of our other chats, like the friendship and how to find your people. Had a great conversation with a new mom to be the other day. And she's gonna be staying home with her baby, Shelby. So I actually have thought about like connecting the two of you, but she was like, I'm not, I gotta find some people. And and she's like, she goes, I have friends, I have my sisters, and and she's like, but I really need to would love to find some other young moms. And I'm like, absolutely. And in encouraging her to look for some mommy and me things and stuff even in advance, so like you're
Yeah.
ready for those. um
Yeah.
but there's so many seasons of life that we go through that are, and if you have a connection to somebody while you're going through it, it means so much. For me, that in between is very hard, and Shelby has tried to help me with this for a long time, because I'm either that 110% or I'm frozen, like the fight or flight, and I don't tend to find somewhere in between.
Yeah.
Because you have to sit with your emotions, and you actually have to stop, and whether it's your business or your life or your health, and go, well, how did that go? Maybe I don't want to really think about that. And so I just jump right into the next one without finishing the last one. And my husband will even tease me about that with house project. He's like, you get everything done except for that last piece of trim in the corner. That's like the story of my life with everything I do.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. I don't know why it is. But the other thing I wanted to touch on today was health and the seasons of our health transitioning. And I told both of these guys recently too, is just like definitely this perimenopause stuff is like a roller coaster. And about the time you think you got it figured out, something changes again.
Yes.
And I told Shelby this morning I was feeling really guilty because Monday I was supposed to strength train because, like I said, she's my wellness coach and she's my accountability person. And it didn't happen. And yes, I think that was the morning that I was laying on the floor. I did get up to stretch with Nikki with the phone above me. I'm so tired. And I'm like, and yesterday I was like, I'm doing it. But I literally was so physically and mentally tired, but literally I could feel that physical tiredness that I also remembered Shelby telling me as our hormones change throughout the month, it's also okay to adapt that to your workout. Like, but
Mhm.
I think that for so long I've been so goal driven and goal taught,
Mhm.
like over all the
Yes.
years, like that's just my personality. Is like, no, I have a schedule. I have to stay on that schedule. And so if I miss it, I failed. Like,
Yeah.
so then
Yeah.
I told Shelby, I said I had to really wrestle with my mind a little bit over the fact that like, oh, I'm not doing it. I'm failing because I didn't get it done versus it's okay, you're letting your body rest. I still went for a walk. I still did some yoga and I stretched. And then this morning I was ready. This morning I was like, okay, now I'm ready to lift weights again. And so whether you are somebody who loves to lift weights or do something else, I really struggle giving myself that permission for that in between. But my body was telling me to rest. And Shelby is very helpful with that. And do you want to talk about that, Shelby, a little bit about those? I mean, just touch real briefly on hormones are a whole other talk, but on that, as we talk about our health and that shifting your wellness as your body's shifting and changing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's different parts of our cycle, right? And so certain points you have more energy and you're more able to, lift heavier and do more intense workouts. And then there's other points of our cycle too where your energy levels kind of dip. Um, so kind of long story short, you can kind of pair what type of workouts along the path of your cycle as it's kind of having its ups and downs. So, like Jenny talked, she may have been at a point in her cycle where, energy levels were really low, hormones were shifting around um, for that point of her cycle. And when your body is telling you, like, hey, we're sending you signals of rest, it's okay to actually listen and do less intense things or actually take a full-on rest day too.
Mhm.
So Jenny was still able to walk and do yoga, but she could have even maybe full on taken a rest day on that point. But um, just really listening to your body and taking that time so that you can bounce back to and bring the right intensity on the days that your body is like, yep, we're ready for this, like we are craving it and let's do this. Because sometimes it can be very counterproductive on those days of, no, we're just gonna push through this. I feel like garbage. I'm physically drained. I'm emotionally drained. Like I'm tapped out. And then we're adding in that extra stressor because we're now trying to crush our workout. And this is going into, specific things for those of you that want to do higher intensity workouts and strength training and things like that. There's obviously importance for that as women as we age that I won't go into today, but um, just again, finding those things that you really enjoy doing and being in tune with your body, just like the seasons throughout the year, listening to kind of what's going on around you and taking a moment. I know one big word that I hope Jenny's okay with me sharing. She always picks one word to use for a time in her life. And not that long ago, that word was pause for her. So I'm really excited and happy to hear that she is still capitalizing on that pause and being like, wait a second, what do I need today? Do I need to do a really intense workout, or do I need to maybe stretch and back off, or do I need to shift and work in my office today because I have all this other stuff coming up? So that's a whole other topic that we could go
Yes.
into, but I think bringing it full circle is, you know, we are in a physical seasonal change in this part of year. We're all in different seasons of our lives, whether it's motherhood or business, or maybe we're transitioning into retirement or menopause or, all of the things. But just taking that moment to kind of slow down at this time of year. I think you said this, Nikki, and I probably won't say it right, but was something we talked about last week of like doing less to do more, or
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. Do less to be more.
yes,
So,
yes.
I think that is for somebody that always had the song, the soundtrack of I Rush and Rush Until Life's No Fun. Um, that was my soundtrack for most of my life. I would say 99% of it until the recent years. And so that I don't want that anymore. And I recognize that other people are in different places of their lives in different stages, right? But I'm here to tell you, I work the least amount that I ever have. I make not the least amount that I've ever made, but make less than I did in my previous job. And I'm happier than I ever was. And I think that what I was just going to round out, and I see JennyLee has something to say too, is just that for so many things come at us to tell us that we need to keep going because we do live in a capitalistic society. But here's the thing to say is that we can still do some of that, but we don't have to follow, we don't have to do all the things. We don't have to do all the things that we think that we're supposed to. I actually don't want to follow anymore. I want to follow my own body. I want to follow my own lead. I want to figure that out, and I want to bob and weave. I don't want this straight arrow of like, because I've done the thing where had the high job and I've had the high paying things, and I had, actually I had two big jobs at one time, and I wasn't present in my life, and I didn't recognize it did not recognize what that was doing to my body and my mind and my soul. And so now that I'm in this in between, my word is contentment, because I think for so often in our world, contentment is seen as a bad word, that so you're just going to be lazy. Well, I often remind people, even God, if you believe in God, he took the seventh day off too, you know? And so, and it's not just a day. We have to, the way that our world is so fast paced, that we have to, the in between is not bad, right? There's a reason why they make us, or, we have lunch breaks and coffee breaks, and we have vacation that we work up to, and things like that. It's that because the pause, the pause is important. The Because without pausing, we often don't recognize how beautiful and how powerful those other experiences are. But the stillness and the pause can actually give us time to pause and realize how what we have gratitude for, instead of just bulldozing ahead. And I'm gonna let Jenny take it the last way, but I just really think that that's, if you're in that part of life that you want to steam ahead, go for it. But I also hope that by us having some of these conversations, we give you pause to think about, maybe there's another way. Maybe there's a way to slow it down, even just for a day, a week, or an hour a
An
week,
hour.
right? An hour. I tell that to people. I mean, I think back to when JennyLee and I were crazy busy in our old businesses. And, we used to carve out time. We carved out time for our work, but we weren't carving out time for ourselves until we started to shift our perspectives and shift our priorities. And then we started to carve out time for ourselves. I'm like, if we can carve out time for a job, we are more important than that job. That's what we need to be carving out time for.
Mhm.
So,
So true. That word pause was a transitional for me for sure. And it was at a time in my life that I needed to pause. And it was didn't mean that I was just gonna sit on my ass all year long. But it was remembering to pause in so many different aspects. Sometimes it was just making a decision in the moment, and other times it was just pause, just literally pausing and just breathing and taking a moment and what is the next thing, Um, the when you were talking about, like, working out and, um, I just wanted to say, even for those that are not if that's not your thing, I love lifting weights, like, it just makes me feel like Superwoman, but if that's not your thing, that is still an incredible analogy for anything else in your world to be like, listen to your body, listen to your mind. Even sometimes in the middle of a work or time with your kids or this or that, and you just feel like, oh, it's just like overcoming, and it's like it's okay to pause and rest again, whether that's a 5 minute, I gotta walk away right now, or it's an hour, or it's a day, or like, hey, we really need a vacation, like there's a lot of different ways to pause. Nikki and I were talking this morning, and I hope she doesn't mind this either, but we were just talking about this perimenopause thing, and how sometimes, like, everything around you creeps in, and at nighttime I hit a wall, and when I hit that wall, and I've never been a really, like, um what do you call it, emotional,
roller,
like,
emotional,
roller
yeah.
coaster throughout the month. I've never been like that bad, and where you see on sitcoms and things like that, but now there's a time of the night where I'm done, and I'm just like, I'm going to bed now, like, I just safest thing for me to do, because I don't want to say something that I don't really mean, or explode at somebody that is literally just like, I just like, don't touch me, don't talk to me, I gotta go to bed right now. And so that's the way I pause in that sense of like,
Yeah.
okay, you recognize what your body's telling you right now and
Mm.
go take that break. Um, so yeah, I think in this transition, it's important to find your connection. Maybe it's with somebody else.
Mhm.
I think those relationships are important, but maybe your connection is nature. So maybe
Mhm.
this is the time of the year that you are, and depending where you live, it's very different everywhere, but just go outside and go for a walk. Listen to the leaves falling off the trees. The sound is so soothing. Soon it's going to be snowing, and as much as I'd rather have warm weather, there is nothing like standing outside at 6 in the morning, listening to the snow touch fall. If you've never experienced it, you need to.
Yeah, I
Um,
would agree with you.
so
Yeah.
it's finding beauty in the moments in the middle of like, oh, it's snowing and cold, but taking 5 minutes to find the beauty in that moment is important in these transitional seasons, I think. So,
Yes. So with that, I'm going to say, I think we've had a phenomenal conversation today about the seasons, whether it's the season of life, the seasons on the calendar, all those different things. And that, to bring it back around, we want you, whether you have found your tribe or not yet, sometimes that's the hardest piece is finding, but realizing sometimes we have to recognize who we are first before we can find who we belong with. And so that sense of belonging starts at home with yourself. So we hope that wherever you're at on that journey, you come along the journey with us at the Real Joy Project, and you share your progress with us, and we'll share our progress with you as we go along this ride that we're on. And we're just so grateful you're here. So JennyLee's going to tell us what you can do if you want to continue to see us and know what's going on in our lives.
yeah, before I do that, Shelby, do you have anything you want to add
Yes. Sorry.
quick?
Um, yes, I don't want to be like sales pitchy.
All
If
right.
you are looking for ways, you don't have to be a mom. I do help women work through different stages in their life when it comes to health and fitness and just finding really simple yet sustainable lifestyle habits that you can carry through the rest of your life. So now is a really great time to now as any time to put yourself first and really focus on yourself. So if you're looking for some helpful tips or anything like that, give me a follow on Instagram. I'm called the Habit Mama. You can also find me on Facebook as well. But I have some really great tips on there for just finding ways to implement health and wellness or just doing routine things for yourself to just like help you feel better. I will also drop some different like supplements and things like that in there that will help through this season with the weather changing and things. I know a lot of people are going to be getting sick. So I have some really great tips on there as well. So if you could just give me a follow on the Habit Mama if you're looking for some helpful tips, that would be awesome. And I would love to have you a part of my community too.
Yes,
Awesome.
absolutely. That's a great transition. So, and so ladies, yeah, follow her over at the Habit Mama. You can follow Nikki over at Cope Consulting NJ for Nikki Johnsrud, .com. And then she's got her Girlfriend Getaway coming up in the end of January, early February, which is up in Medora, North Dakota. But fly in. It's a 3-day event. It's gonna be amazing. But you guys go if you're listening to our YouTube right now, make sure to subscribe, like, and tap the bell so that you get notifications when we have new coffee chats pop up. And then you can find all of our places you can follow us over at therealjoyproject.com. And inside there you can follow us Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, everywhere you need to go. And yeah, so that's it. So we can't wait to see you guys on the next chat. We're going to start moving into the holidays, and we're going to talk about letting go of some of those expectations, because we know that those can cause a lot of issues if we have too many when we're walking into that season.
That's right. Till next time, ladies. We'll see you then.
Bye-bye.
Okay.